Here we are, session 10.
I know. Can't believe it's been 10 weeks.
I know. But it's been 10 great weeks. I feel like I've learned so much from just obviously tracking us talking about nutrition, but also the topics. So always fun. And as you asked me, how's my week?
Mhm.
Good. I think I've I think I've been like so much more in the zone than I've ever been with everything with like the food tracking and all like the numbers where I'm like, okay, I'm like, I truly feel like I've gotten the hang of this for the most part finally. So that's kind of nice and feeling good, exercise, feeling good, not getting hungry in the middle of my workouts anymore or feeling hungry. Um, yeah, kind of all I have to report.
That's awesome. No, I was going to say this. So I would say usually for a typical client, and
Yeah.
there are extremes at one end or the other, but I would say around the 2 to 3 month mark, if we're dialing in new habits, that's when things start to click, right?
Hmm.
And not only do things start to click, but usually the client will be in a place where we can start to shift, macros and the content of what they're eating to then really facilitate moving towards whatever their goal is. And that's really dependent on where they're starting from.
Hmm.
But just in your particular case, though, because we did see some initial rise on the scale with
Yeah.
eating more, but now I would say we've kind of hit that apex, and now we're starting to slide back down because we're increasing protein now that we're at a higher amount of calories, essentially that reverse diet that we had talked about a few weeks ago. And now that we've got our macros a little more dialed in, we're starting to see that as it swung up, now it's starting to come back down, which is obviously kind of what you were wanting to do, but just I would hope that not only you, but people who watch the series have a better understanding of like, ooh, trusting the process and like, I don't like to see the numbers go up, but it's in service of the bigger picture, right? Like, are
Yeah.
you eating enough so that if and when we do need to cut calories, I'm not cutting you down to 1,100 calories or 1,000 calories or 800 calories. Like you're in a place, one, where you have foundational habits that will support adding the stress of being in a cut, but also in a place where if I do ask you to eat less, it's possible. And we're not just
Yeah.
going to burn.
Yeah. And I think like I had to also, as you say, like I was like, okay, let's look at my body. And I can say that I also like I know for a fact I am stronger. When I look at myself, I don't necessarily feel like I look very different. Like there's part of that with it too where I'm like, "Oh, I know I'm stronger. I'm definitely stronger." I think also when you see yourself every day, sometimes it's hard for you to like you said, take the photos at the beginning so you actually know it, like the difference.
Absolutely, yeah.
So for me, I think it's been like really trying to take in and notice even subtle changes despite the scale being the same. Because, like, as you said, the fluctuation, I'm still within the same range of like fluctuation. So for me, it doesn't feel like it's necessarily come back down, but I can be like, I can see that there is more muscle definition or certain things that are changing, even though overall I'm like, my body doesn't look that different to me, but I know it's stronger just because of what I'm able to do. If that
Totally.
makes
And
yeah.
and and to your point, like the range, there will always be fluctuations and oscillations between our weight because it's a range. But what I'm looking for is the trend. And what I see since we adjusted your protein, took carbs down, took protein up a little bit, there has been oscillations, but now they're starting to move in a downward trend.
Mm. Yeah, cool. Well, that's nice to hear. But yeah, but also to like I said, do it with not having to be hungry, being like the thing is a new world, Taylor. A
We
new
love that.
world.
We
Yeah.
love that.
Yes. For
We
sure. So
execute.
yeah, that's like kind of it. That's all I got.
That's awesome. Should we dive into fiber?
Yes. So our topic today is oh hey there fiber. And this was a topic that you brought up when we first were talking about doing this and how your prediction and correct me if I'm getting a little wrong, but your prediction is that the next big thing, right now it's protein, 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 will be fiber, fiber, fiber. And so can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I honestly think it's just the natural pendulum swing of well, now we're eating so much fiber that we're not digesting things. So to overcorrect, what's going to help with our digestion and with our gut microbiome and, helping us feel better, it's going to be fiber. Which it is an important piece of not only dieting, but having a healthy digestive system. And I think there is a hyperfixation on protein right now. I am starting to see how there might be a proliferation of fiber on the horizon as and it's going to do the same thing that we did with protein, right? Like we already see fiber sodas, probiotic sodas, fiber sodas, and chips. You see protein chips now, you see protein sodas. Like, I think that's just where it's going to shift because it's easier to give the illusion that you're getting fiber from a food that maybe isn't as nutrient dense as opposed to shifting a habit, right? Like I'm going to grab a Olipop because it has 9 grams of fiber or whatever the content is, as opposed to just eat a piece of fruit, right? Because the soda's easier. You just crack it, chug it. So with fiber, not unlike protein, one, we want to ramp up our fiber intake. So you will probably find yourself very uncomfortable if you're coming from a place of low fiber intake, taking it all the way up to 30, 40, 50 grams of fiber. So ramp yourself up if you track your food and find that your fiber intake is low, because there can be some digestive discomfort that comes with that, as there is with starting from a place of not eating very much protein to ramping it up. Whole food sources are better. That's the same with protein. Ideally, and if you're someone who is worried about like blood glucose spikes, really great way to combat that, eat some fiber with your fibers. So there are natural ways to kind of control things that how the body will respond. And if that is a concern, like if you're diabetic, for no other reason than that should you be concerned about glucose spikes when your body consumes carbs. But just understanding, kind of adding a layer of complexity onto our foundational nutritional habits, what foods to pair together so that we can maximize our nutrition.
Yeah. And do you have any like tips or advice for that? Because I think I'm someone who also never really thought about fiber until I feel like a couple years ago, and I was like, oh yeah, especially when I was dealing with digestive issues, and we finally figured out I'm a gluten intolerant girly. But like with that comes like, okay, you have to make sure that you're intaking the right amount of fiber. Is there a right amount of fiber? How does one figure out what's your right amount of fiber?
So recommended daily guidelines, I believe, for women are 25 to 30. For men, it's a little bit higher. And we also want to be consuming a variety of fiber. So we have insoluble and soluble fiber. Insoluble, you're going to see in your poop. Soluble, you're going to absorb into your digestive system. So there's a really great creator. Her name is Gabrielle something. She does her whole thing is fiber. But she breaks it down into 5 categories. So you have fruits, vegetables, beans and legumes, nuts and seeds, and then whole grains. So you want to be touching each of those throughout the day, maybe 2 to 3 per meal. And if you could do that, then most likely you will hit your fiber goal for the day without really trying.
Okay. That's awesome. Okay. And I do think we've previously kind of talked about the wellness industrial complex, but do you think that there's I don't want to say that everything is malicious, but like the hyper focus on one to then swing to another, like as opposed to saying, let's talk about the well-rounded, how do we hit, like, do you think that's purposeful, or it's just like we see that someone mentioned protein, so we're just going to go on the protein train, and then when someone starts talking about fiber more, we're going to get on the fiber train? Or is it like,
I think it's just the natural reaction to people are probably experiencing a lot of digestive discomfort eating so much protein and protein from foods that like you wouldn't normally consider a protein source, like a soda or a chip or a cookie or something like, but you know what I mean? Like it's still going to be a cookie, soda, or chip. But so to combat that, and just I think to keep that goalpost moving, right? Like this is the one thing that you haven't been doing that's going to change your life, and it's eating a vegetable,
Yeah.
eating a
But
piece of food.
then I almost feel like you're like, oh, well, I'm going to eat this cookie because I have to hit a certain amount of protein, but now I have to tag on the soda, the fiber soda with my cookie.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have like a whole meal of things you should be getting from Whole Foods, but you kind of are just like,
Right, and that's not to say that those things are bad to
no.
supplement with if you are
Yeah.
in a crunch, because I think then that's where people go, right? It's like, or well, they go swing one of two ways if they want to be extremist. They say, well, so you're telling people to eat a cookie, a protein cookie? Like, no, if that's the only option, great. So I think just to get in the habit of, so for me, it's always get into the habit of doing whatever it is you want to add in or subtract, and then see how you feel. Does this make me feel better? Are my bowel movements more regular? Do I feel like I have more energy because my digestive system isn't slowing me down because I don't have enough, good bacteria in my gut to digest things and feel comfortable? So really just taking stock of, if I make this change, do I feel better? Do I feel worse?
Mm-hmm.
Most
Yeah.
of the times I feel like if you'll have more fiber, you'll feel better.
Yes. But I do remember, because the fiber train was the train before we got on this most recent protein train. Because
I feel like it was more like whenever Metamucil, not that it was invented in our generation, but like I remember Metamucil being really pushed, I want to say, maybe in the 90s.
yeah, I'm thinking of this like, I mean, granted that this was like an episode of Scamfluencers, but it was these two women who ended up in like literally illegal, like they were suing each other. But it's because
Mm-hmm.
one of them had like a powder. It was literally like a fiber thing, and this other woman had used it and had caused extreme digestive distress. Like I don't know if she had the hospital, all this stuff. So, but it was at a point where everyone was like fiber, 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 and I think this was also happening. Like this was, don't quote me, but like Upper West Side
Of course.
ladies exercise, like it was that thing. And then
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that kind of disappeared, and it was like it was an influencer who built this
Yeah.
business on like fiber powders, and I make fiber cookies, and
Mm.
I incorporate this into the flour or whatever.
I,
And
I
then
don't remember. I mean, I would still consider myself new to the fitness wellness industry. Like,
mhm.
this is a career path that I've had for the past 5 years. So maybe just I didn't have my finger on the pulse of things to be aware that there was really a big push for fiber supplementation and fiber in general. Um, but I'm thinking more like kind of overall wellness diet trends. So I feel like it was Atkins, well, now carnivore, but like Atkins, low carb, high fat, high protein. And
Mhm.
then we moved on to just protein because, cholesterol and saturated fat and seed oils or whatever. Um, and now moving from lean protein into fiber. That's more so, I guess, how I see it, but maybe not being as immersed in the wellness scene before, you know.
Yeah, this was it was called F Factor, the F Factor diet. And it was associated fiber slash protein powder. So maybe it was just like the mixing of them.
Maybe,
And then it was like two
which makes sense. Like that kind of goes to all that we're talking about, right? Is
yeah. So it was like a lawsuit starting in 2020. So that's why it's like I think it was like
oh,
those
okay,
things, yeah.
okay,
But I just remember hearing about it on like Scamfluencers, and like because it was this big thing of these like social media
hmm
influencers thing, back and forth. But it was all about fiber, and I was like, this isn't.
yeah,
I said, but because I'd never heard of F Factor, but I was also like, maybe this was like a big thing on the East Coast, or like
maybe,
a
yeah,
certain group of people,
yeah,
a socioeconomic level I am not in to even hear
totally.
about this,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So it's so like
Like the Erewhon crowd, maybe.
yeah, but even that's interesting to me, where it's like the one thing that manages to trickle down is like wellness things, like, that will start here, and then all of a sudden the rest of us are trying to do it in some way, shape, or form differently, but and how the trends go, and so, or when they make things more affordable and therefore more people can access it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing for us to be accessing. It totally makes sense to me that, like you're saying, if your diet and your digestion gets affected in one way, then it's like, okay, so how do we profit off of the correction of that
Yep.
pendulum swing? And then I'm sure it'll swing somewhere else at some
What would
point.
blow everyone's mind is if, you know, carbs were okay to eat it again.
I mean, I loved it. Like, you telling me to eat the carbs was the best thing. I was like, I'm gonna go get this croissant. The man at the bakery knows me. Maybe he shouldn't. I don't know. But I was like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Let's not fear carbs. Let's not demonize carbs.
yeah. And I was so glad I found that clip from the Fall Guy to put into our carb conversation, because I just think it's so funny. Like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's so wild to me, athletes, people who are athletes of any age. Yeah, there's a not. I don't know if it's a fear. I don't know if it's just deeply seated dietary, whatever it is. Like, let's be friends with carbs, especially if you're super
Yeah.
active.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hopefully one day. One day. But yeah, that was great. Thank you. And
Of course.
you know, I feel and I think the overall thing is like trying to have your like balanced diet. If you can get it from Whole Foods, great. If you have a supplement, okay. Let's nourish our bodies.
Yay, yes, we love
Yes.
that.
All right, cool.